All right, moving on to the world of basketball, a sport I love so much. And talking about the NBA, well, champions Boston Celtics have been celebrating their trophy left, right, and center, and the opposing fans are just being bitter. But let's talk about the Golden State Warriors. Now, Klay Thompson, one of the boys who features for the Splash Brothers, he is not currently mulling over, and of course, is a shorter than desired offer from the Golden State Warriors. Now, despite a wide open negotiation window, there isn't a 1 year contract, there isn't a 2 year contract, there isn't a 3 year contract on the table. This is according to reports now, because nothing is currently on that table according to the league sources. Now, there's been no productive discussion between the Warriors and Klay Thompson or his representatives. Talks are essentially frozen, with free agency now less than 10 days away. Thompson's exit from the only franchise he has ever known feels closer and more probable than ever before. Bimidepo, do you think it is proper for Klay Thompson to leave? I mean, I don't think I've ever heard it in time that a basketball player featured in a basketball game and didn't even score 1 point. I find it very difficult to believe, but now Klay Thompson on the verge of leaving the Golden State Warriors, it is a good thing for the team.
No, I would say anything can happen basically because it's a sport and there are so many things happening behind the scene. But for me, I would say the manner at which he would be living, it's where I personally would say might not be very right? Because, this is the club he's known all his life. And I think he's not that bad an athlete, right? He knows his onions to a level. And if you are not offering a contract, then you should speak to the agent or speak to the player. You can seek offers elsewhere. You can seek, for a new home. There are ways you put this out to the player or to the agents where it would not sound derogatory. Where they would also feel valued, or probably you say, okay, we have a couple of players that can play, or we just want to move on from what you bring to the team. So, and I think that is just the issue for me. But I would like to see him in another team. Let's see what he can bring to the table.
All right, we have Ayotunde Onobulu joining us to discuss this matter on the table. Tunde, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning from here.
Yes, good morning from Nigeria. Good morning over there too, because I think it's about 5 a.m. in the US.
Yeah, right about 5:47 a.m. So yeah, we're just trying to wake up now.
Definitely. Thank you for joining us. We had to drag you from sleep to come and talk about the Splash Brothers, and I hope we didn't splash water on you while you were sleeping. But let's talk about Klay Thompson. Are we being too emotional towards Klay Thompson, knowing that he has been a long-term servant for the Golden State Warriors, or is it time to really move on from the club?
Well, we should understand that there's a couple of factors in play here. Number one, the game is a business now. So the business is more important than loyalty will ever be anymore at this point of the at this point in time. Okay. Now, Klay had a devastating double injury for 2 years, missed out, and then he came back. And we have to be honest with ourselves. He's been a shadow of the Klay Thompson we always knew. Last year, he averaged 17.9 points a game. He shot 38.7% from the field, which is an all-time low in his storied career. Now he's no longer on the young side. And experts will tell you there is no indication that Klay would get back near to his best in those times the Warriors were competing for and winning the championship. So right now, the Warriors also, don't forget, when it comes to salaries they've been paying to guys, they are well above the luxury tax. Now they are paying heavy amounts in luxury taxes. Now they need to understand, and they've come to a position where they understand, look, if we are going to be spending a lot of money on salaries, we should be getting value in return. Unfortunately, with Klay, we do not have that value. And that's why there is no offer on the table for him. It's strictly business. We know Orlando has a 2-year offer on the table for him because they need shooting. Orlando had a great season last year. They suffered in the playoffs because they could not generate 3-point shooting. And they think with a veteran addition to their team, someone who will not take too much money, then they can actually build something right there. Someone who can complement Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. But the reality is, Klay Thompson cannot open his eyes and expect that the way he would have been treated 4 years ago in free agency is the way he will be treated right now. The Warriors did not win last year. They were bounced in the play-in tournament. He had a terrible season by his standards. He cannot expect now that any reasonable team will splash money on him. He needs next year to prove that he can still be as lethal on both sides of the floor. Because don't forget, it's not just about the three-point shooting for Klay. Prime Klay Thompson is an elite perimeter defender. We didn't see that over the last 2 years. And those are the factors that are at play. And so Klay is unfortunately on the wrong end of the table here, and he might have to settle for whatever comes his way. I think for Klay, the most important thing right now should be getting play time. Still having to start, it might mean not playing for a title contender, because right now he just needs to get his game back. He's currently in Bahamas training with the Bahamian national team ahead of the Olympics.
All right, and still talking about Klay Thompson now. He's 34 years old. We're talking about him getting his game back. The NBA is filled with a lot of youngsters. These guys are running the courts on fire. And it just means that he needs more than the mentality of the Black Mamba, talking about late Kobe Bryant now, to bounce back, to play the game. And if he leaves Golden State Warriors, don't you think mentally it will affect him before he gets his game back? Because he's used to playing with the Golden State Warriors, the likes of Steph Curry and Draymond Green.
Well, when it comes to the mental aspects of the game, I don't think Klay Thompson would have as much mental issues as he had for 2 straight years not playing basketball, and for 2 straight years coming back, having to struggle to get his game going on. So if this is the Klay Thompson I think I know, I think this would be a challenge he's willing to accept, especially considering the fact that he will be wanting to prove to the Golden State Warriors that they made a grave mistake by not re-signing him, by not giving him a good deal. And so that, for me, is the motivation to go out there and succeed. But you see, the mind can decide to succeed all it wants, but can the body respond in like manner? That is the million-dollar question for Klay.
Definitely. And before I let you go, let's talk about the NBA drafts coming up later this week. Are you expecting any big move in the drafts?
So there might be some big moves, and here's why. This is probably the first draft in a while where the excitement and the buzz are not necessarily profound, because there's no standout player in the draft. I mean, in years past, you had Kyrie Irving in the draft. You had Ben Simmons, even though he turned out to be trash. You had Zion Williamson. The anticipation was big, Anthony Edwards. But now you can't really point in the direction of one player and say this is the guy. And so there'll be a lot of draft picks that teams will be using as negotiation chips to try to land some more established players. Because after what we saw in the just concluded season with the way Boston Celtics ran the show, believe me, teams want to improve, and there's going to be a lot of player movement. So I anticipate that the trade market will be very, very active on draft night.
All right, we look forward to it, and we'll also keep tabs on Klay Thompson's movement if he leaves or if a miracle happens and he stays back with the Golden State Warriors. But thank you very much, Ayotunde Onobulu, for always answering us when we call you. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Have a great one, brother. Thank you.
Have a great one. Now, Gwemidepo, this is where we'll draw a wrap on today's show. We talked about a lot of interesting things happening in the world of sport. And I intentionally did not talk about the jersey you wore, because I already know the size you're already picking in the NPFL, but your plan will not work. But then, Gwemidepo, thank you for joining us today on the show.
All right, thank you so much for having me up.